Welcome to The Deepest Cut, a podcast about the movement from painful experiences to meaningful music. I'm your host, Matt Connor. It's not every day that a mentor will tell you to, quote, murder someone, but that's exactly what Taylor Leonhardt needed to hear in the moment. It was a few years ago now that Taylor found herself descending into a dark place, a faith crisis spurred on by the brokenness of close friends and spiritual pillars. As stories and suffering were shared, Taylor says she found herself in a space that she describes with the title of her beautiful song, Lights Gone Out. It details the confusion and the questions that arrived in that season. Yet, as Taylor explained to me on this episode of The Deepest Cut, her tendency to want to provide a ray of hope, to wrap things up nicely with a bow at times, was actually keeping the song from finding its greatest impact. Now, that's not to say that hope isn't necessary, but in this instance, Taylor needed to tell the truth, and it was a close friend who encouraged her to be more vulnerable, to go there, quote, to murder someone in the chorus, and not shy away from the pain if that's where the truth is found. Now, if that sounds dark, perhaps it is, but her song Lights Gone Out resonates because of the connective tissue it generates by actually going where she did. Now, if you're familiar with Taylor Leonhardt already, you know that Lights Gone Out is just one of so many meaningful songs in her catalog, whether as a solo artist or one half of Mission House with Jess Ray, or even as one quarter of Paper Horses with Jess, Sandra McCracken, and Leslie Jordan. She has plenty of new music on the way, but on this episode, Taylor was kind enough to look back at a painful period in which she learned to tell the truth, to quote, murder appropriately, if you will. Here's our conversation with Taylor Leonhardt on The Deepest Cut. Hello and welcome to The Deepest Cut. My name is Matt Connor. I'm your host. I'm here with Taylor Leonhardt. Taylor, you not only have your own solo stuff, also Mission House with Jess Ray, and also writing for other people too. Is that right? I'm already talking to you, but you haven't even said hello yet, so I'll let you do that first.
Well, hey, how's it going? Good to see you, Matt, and good to be with all you guys who are listening in. Yes, I am one half of Mission House with Jess Ray, and then one fourth of Paper Horses with Jess and our friends Sandra McCracken and Leslie Jordan. And I pretty much am addicted to collaborating with my friends. So people just tease me because they're like, "Oh, I see your name on all this." It's because I just love when people are like, "Hey, let's write songs and make some music together." I'm like, "That sounds great to me." So I also make music with groups like the Porter's Gate, probably most frequently, and then like Anchor Hymns and some stuff like that I've done recently, which I really loved. And yeah, sometimes I get to write songs for other people too that I never sing, and but it's fun.
We want to dive into the subject matter material, your song Lights Gone Out. But I just want to ask you this, with so many different outlets for where you could go with your songwriting, your songcraft, how do you know when to save it for, hey, this is me alone. I'm going to stash this away for my next solo release?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, I would say when I'm writing by myself, I mean, sometimes the most obvious answer is a lot of the songs I write completely alone end up being tailored songs. So I don't co-write those as often. Most of those are I'm writing. Now there are some exceptions, but a lot of those I've just written alone, or at least started most of it alone. And I kind of just know in the beginning, this feels like one of my songs. But I did have an example I was at a Mission House write with Jess, and we were with two other friends writing, like wanting to get at least a couple of Mission House songs written. And I did bring an idea in, and I remember it wasn't that they didn't like it, it was just that it didn't catch. Like I brought the idea to the co-write as like a Mission House idea, and I could see, I said, "What about this?" This was something I was starting. But then it was kind of that moment in a co-write where a lot of people were like saying, "What about this or this?" And my idea in that moment didn't get, you know, it just wasn't the thing that we worked on. And so I really liked it. So I was like, well, I think I'm just gonna go home and work on that idea some more. And that became a song that actually will be on my next upcoming release. And so it was kind of a sweet moment of like, oh yeah, that one was for you. And you did I wasn't sure at first, and then it kind of became. So sometimes you know, and sometimes it takes a little while to like for it to reveal which, like Jess always calls them buckets, like which bucket does this go in? Which like thing is this does this want to live in? And yeah, I'm trying to get, I think the more I do all of those projects, the more I it becomes a little more clear to me, to all of us. And the Paper Horses stuff, we have decided just to write all those songs together too. So that kind of makes it easy. So they're all taking on their own personas, their own I like cultures in a way.
The whole premise of the podcast here is talking about, difficult circumstances, the way that we can potentially use our creativity to move through those spaces, to understand those spaces, to connect with others in those spaces. Lights Gone Out has some pretty obvious low moments. You just read the lyrics and you're like, okay, whoever wrote this was in a dark space. Can you take us behind the context of what informed the lyrics to that song, where that came from?
Yeah. So this song now is has been around for a while. It's lived with me for a while, and let's see. It came out in 2019, I think is when I released it. But I'm pretty sure that I wrote it in 2017, and I was living in North Carolina at the time. I remember the day that I wrote it, I got a phone call from a friend, pretty good friend of mine. It was just one of those phone calls that you kind of you never wanna get. It's like when someone you love calls you with, like, terrible news. And in this case, I just kinda found out that her marriage was ending and kind of her family had sort of imploded, and, these were just people that were so dear to me and someone who feels like family to me, and so I think it just was one of those moments in my life where it was like, "Oh, I've been living in this illusion," and I feel like the moment kind of revealed the illusion to me, like, and the illusion was something like, if I, as someone who, as a person of faith, as someone who has, you know, been a Christian since I was in high school, I've kind of been unknowingly living this thing where I feel like I made a deal with God, and the deal is like, I'll do this, I'll do X, Y, and Z, and I'll be a good kid. And then you're gonna, right? Like you're gonna make things work out for me and the people I love. And the person, like my friend who called me, would be like an example of like, they're the family who's like leading the things at church and the community and all this stuff. They're the people that everybody, you look at them like you want to be just like them kind of thing. And so I feel like it was not only this personal moment of, man, this hurts me because of what my friend is going through, but also this moment where I just felt like my faith kind of got shaken down to the core of like this really, like God has kind of broken his this deal that I feel like I made with him. And if this could happen to them, like it would happen to me. What can I even count on? I feel like in an afternoon I just got sent into this deep questioning space. And I think really, not that I had never walked through a hard thing before, but that was the most I ever felt. Like I remember just kind of weeping with my friend on the phone at the shock of it and the pain of it, and then hanging up the phone and going like, I don't know I don't really know what to say or what to do, like how to move through here. Yeah, and I grabbed like my guitar and started writing this song, and I could, I think that's maybe something when people imagine songwriters, that we're always doing that. Like in our lowest moments, we're reaching for the guitar or going to the piano, and that is not my normal thing. Like I would say mostly I'm writing way out of the moment, looking back into a moment, but like that. But in this case, I did, and I remember just I think starting with that first verse, like Lord, Lord, I pray your will be done on earth as it is in heaven, but today it's hard. That's hard to believe in. Kind of like I just felt like I'm mad and sad and like I just want to tell you that this doesn't feel okay.
Did it all come pouring out in that moment? How long did from the version we hear?
Yeah, it took a while to get to the version here. I think I'm pretty sure I had verse 1, I had verse 2. I had written the verses, and man, I wish I could remember. It would be great if I could remember what the original chorus was, but maybe it's good that I don't remember what it was, but I had a chorus that so the chorus of the song is, "What do I do now that all the lights gone out?" And it was something that's pretty bleak, or like it's kind of like that's not your typical, okay, this is hard, but well, hang on. And I think my original chorus that I had was something like that. It was something like I sort of allowed some hope to kind of come in because I thought, well, surely like that's what
You're supposed to have.
yeah, I'm supposed to, right? Like I'm supposed to get to the part supposed to get to the second half of the psalm, I guess, where I'm just like, but I will trust in God and he's got it. And and so I had some version of the song like that. And I was like, okay, here we go. And I sent it to a friend. I sent it to Andy Squires, who a lot of listeners will know from Andy's music. And he also is just a profound writer and writes Instagram essays, has published a few sort of kind of coffee table books, but these really great essays on God and life and grief and all those things. And I always feel like I always kind of think of Andy as a king of sadness. So at this point, this was the saddest song I'd ever written. And it felt like this is in Andy's territory. And I knew enough as a songwriter at this point to know I think I need to get someone else's perspective on this. And because I think I wasn't looking at it like, man, this is pretty good. I'm all done. Let's go to the studio. It was a pretty raw song. I remember not having that feeling that you want as a writer that, oh, it's good. Like this is good and done. I was like, there's something kind of not right with it. And so I sent it off to Andy and he answered me and in a great way. Like I think every songwriter needs a friend who will like give them actual honest feedback. I guess you got to think about if that's what you really want, but I think it's really I did want that, and it was really valuable because he kind of said he didn't cut it down, but he just said these verses are really something and really beautiful. And I feel like when it gets to the chorus, which I mentioned was kind of this like it takes a turn into this kind of hopeful posture. When you get to the chorus, it's just kind of like, I don't know. Like it's kind of whatever, it loses the thing for me. And he goes, I think you can write a better chorus than that. And he's like, and I kind of want you to write a chorus where you and he used the words, I want you to write a chorus where you murder someone, meaning just like don't be afraid to like let to really like let something kind of die in that chorus and don't be afraid of that. And so I was like, okay, I took it so I mean, I have so much respect for him that I remember feeling like, oh, like not less hurt that he just didn't like the chorus I have and more kind of like I want to write a chorus that he'll think is a great chorus that the king of sadness says is a great chorus. So I was like, I think he's right.
When Andy says to you, murder something here, right? And obviously that's a funny way, but I think everyone gets what you're saying. How comfortable are you with that Like when he says that, are you like, "Oh yeah, that's totally great with me and I'm gonna go there?" Or are you like, "Am I allowed? Is that something either I can do or I'm allowed to do?" Like I guess I just wondered like what your like sort of emotional impulsive response is when you hear or read that.
I think it was probably, I think that there was a dual response to that where part of me is like, "Well, I've never done that before. Is that okay? Is that like, you know, I'm this artist writing in a pretty Christian space." The record that I had just released was called River House, and a lot of those songs, not that there isn't pain in them, but they're a lot there are a lot of songs kind of about like, okay, I think they're pretty encouraging, comforting in this space of like, here's who God is and how God is kind of showing up in my life. And so in this moment, I was uncomfortable in the sense that part of me that was like, well, I've never done that before. I've never really talked much about how God is not showing up. How he is maybe feeling quite absent in this moment. And I'm pretty angry about that. And I've never really actually voiced anger to God before or profound disappointment. And, you know, I've been the person at church leading the song that's like, "Oh, you never let me down," singing that chorus over and over again. So it's like, yeah, I think there was a big part of me that's like, am I allowed to do that? And then I would say there was another part of me, the artist, the the part of me that just deeply, deeply that I think is in all of us, the part that really wants to tell it like it is and be honest and wants an answer to these questions that I have. I think that part when Andy said, I wonder what would happen if you murdered someone, his very Andy Squires metaphor for just like, don't tie it up in a bow, which is what I had done. Leave the thing like in pieces. And I thought, yeah, I kind of want to do that. I'm not sure I have done it before. I'm not even totally sure I know how, but I really want to do that. And I think I was also bolstered by him saying, I know that you can I know you can. And I wish you would let yourself do that. It's kinda how I heard. So it was this almost very pastoral, he has mentored me through a lot of things, and I think that's what it felt like in that moment was almost like, "Man, I can see where you could go if you would just free yourself up to do that and move into a more honest place in the song," and
This maybe gets a little bit more, philosophical or into the psyche of things, but clearly if you grew up in the church, you're very familiar with the Psalms. We're all very familiar with the fact of like, oh yeah, here are 150 entries, if you will. There, I mean, song form or poetic form or whatever, but here are all these, here's the full spectrum of human emotion. And we canonize it and we memorize it and we reference it and we think, oh, we're supposed to hide this scripture in our heart. And those scriptures are, where are you, God? God, why are you unfaithful to me? I've been faithful to you. Like some of the very things that you're like, can I even go there? Are things that we're supposed to treasure and memorize and reference and live by. And yet there's this feeling of, like you said, there's this reticence or even this, like, I needed permission to even go there. Like when it comes to Christians making films, music, books, whatever it is, there is this temptation to have to put the bow on it. Why do you think there's that dichotomy? I mean, at least for you, what is that about?
yeah. Well, part of it I mean, I think 2 things come to mind. One thing is, culturally, um, and I think that and I'm using air quotes, like, I think Christian music, because 'cause I'm not sure how I even feel about that as a genre label, but I think music in that space often suffers from this need to, like, for every song to tell the entire story. Like, we can't leave any parts out, so it's like, your 3-minute song has to arrive at this place of resurrection every single time, and we're very uncomfortable kind of just only telling parts of stories, and I don't know if that's a fear of people won't get it. People will I don't wanna leave them in this whatever place when they're listening, and it's like, I think I don't know, part of that is, like, not trusting our listeners in a sense to, like that they're actually pretty smart, sophisticated folks who can handle just a part of the story. I don't know what that is, or maybe it's our just own discomfort of just, like, uh but yeah, you look at the psalm, and there's several psalms I know that don't even get to that. I mean, a lot of them have they have some stanza where they turn to this trust and hope, but some of them stay, and then I just think, like, part of it is we often look at we're too zoomed into one song. I'm too zoomed into one song, and I need it to say everything I think and feel and believe versus, like, zooming out and being like, "This song is one chapter of a of the book I'm writing. This is just one part of the story that I'm telling." And actually, I would serve the whole story better to just tell that one part really faithfully. And by faithfully, I don't mean with a lot of bravado or confident, like whatever it is, but faithfully in the sense of like telling it really truthfully, and that would actually serve the whole thing better. And I'm just thinking like even the Bible itself would feel kind of ruined in a sense if in the sadder kind of parts you think about the gospels and the parts of Jesus, like if it was full of tension, if the entire time he was like, "But it's all good. Like it's gonna," I think that even Jesus himself lets us sit in that, and like, even when he would give his disciples, like he would sometimes be like, he would give them these kind of mysterious, the temple will be destroyed but rebuilt in 3 days. Like, he was kind of giving them hints that things were going that resurrection was coming, but he really doesn't explain things for them often and lets them sit in those moments, and, I just think, man, it's okay as a writer to tell a story that is just, your version of Peter denying Christ. You don't have to, like, get to the forgiveness part where it gets all but you can save that for a different song, and I think this song to write this song faithfully and truthfully, and, like, I knew probably, like, "Oh, I need to let this chorus be something that really lets me and lets anyone who would listen to it express some real, like, grief and anguish," and that is actually going to and in doing that, I think when I sat back at my guitar after Andy kinda sent me out to rewrite it, I did feel commissioned, I guess, in a sense, and when I sat back in my at my with my guitar, I remember eventually kinda singing that line because I thought, "Well, what do I wanna say?" And then I was like, I think the truth is I don't know what to do." Then I thought, "Well, that feels kind of like what I wanna say too."
Hmm. The what do I do now?
What do I do now? Like that now that this now that the illusion has been shattered, now that this thing has happened, now that I can no longer count on you to behave in the way that I thought you were going to behave, then what's true now? Because I can't see anything. And singing that felt really like, it felt right in a sense that it felt really true, and I think the surprise to me in that moment was that and I think this is true a lot in my life, that when I can and I'm thinking about in prayer, but I'm also just thinking about across the table from someone, when I can really be honest and be like, "This is actually what it is," I don't feel less connected with the person across the table, whether that's my friend or God. I actually feel more connected. Like, I actually feel this, um, even if I'm not hearing anything back, I think just the sort of rightness that you feel in telling the truth and kind of like, "Oh, that's what it is. That's actually the thing." Um, that oftentimes I feel like there is this sense of the person on the other end kinda leaning back into you, you know? And yeah, I think that was true. That was true of that moment for me.
Yeah, it's connective tissue in that way. Let me ask you this: was yes or no? This song was a turning point for you to then be able to tell the full truth as an artist going forward.
Yes, I think that I realized that in writing this song, and not just writing in it, I mean, it certainly had a healing component, just writing it, just having it be something I could sing. And then, I think in Bono's memoir, which is wonderful, called Surrender, he talks about how songs aren't really finished until you share them. He's like, a U2 song isn't really a song until we play it and people, hear it, and like in that sense, then it kind of is a complete thing. So, I think when I started singing this song, I'd sing it at a show. I feel like it really changed. Like it changed the nature of. I could feel people connecting to that song, even in the moment of singing it. But then this thing started happening where that really hadn't I hadn't happened to me too much before that, but people would come to talk to me at the end and wanna talk about this song and would just share some sort of like, "Oh, I needed that." Like, I needed the permission. Like, I didn't have that yet permission. I haven't been giving myself that, and I really needed it. And so something like that, or, um yeah, I just think to your point, why are these songs hard to write? It's like not just a songwriting issue, but it's like also because I think as people, we just don't give ourselves space to grieve properly, you know? And I think I was just meaning all these people that had not really grieved something and were feeling a 3-minute, glimpse into like, oh, I think, this invitation of this is something I do need to sit with. And so then I just thought, man, I would rather write songs like that. I'd rather write songs that give me space and give other people space to just sit with things that are hard to sit with. Like, I feel like I'm first in line of avoiding pain. I mean, I'm like, that is a hard thing for me to do, and I wanna look away from discomfort. I don't wanna sit with tough emotions, you know? I have everything in my nervous system is telling me when something gets difficult, it's like I'm looking for the eject button out of this. Let me watch a funny video. Let me just run around the block, anything to not deal with this. So I think music, in a sense, has been really important for me to write these songs as just like also a way to kind of teach myself how to like, you know, music has even other so many other people's music has been that for me. It's kind of like here's a safe way to like go somewhere that maybe you weren't willing to go on your own, or you couldn't, or you just needed a friend. And uh yeah, and I think it gave me writing this kind of song more has given me the thing I want too in music, which is like I want I want to connect with people, like, in a real way.
Well, certainly the song works on that level, and I'm glad that other people have responded to you in that way. This feels like a great time to play the song, so I'd love to have you take us in it.
Yes, well, it's been a joy to talk about this song. That means a lot to me, and this is Lights Gone Out. Lord, I pray your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Today it's hard to believe in, and hell has never come quite so close. I see the whites of his eyes, and oh, I feel the breaking of every bone. What do I do now that all the lights gone out? How many times have I promised to walk through the smoke and the fire with you? That was long before I ever knew the flame. Not this, not the thing that I cannot fix. The house is burning and I'm helpless, And what do I do now that all the lights gone out? And what do I do now that all the lights gone What will we find at the bottom of this bitter drink, this awful cup, when all the pain's been swallowed up? Will it make us different? Will we say with confidence that the love was worth the risk, that the end is joy? And what do I do now that all the lights gone out? Oh, what do I do now that all the lights gone
You've been listening to The Deepest Cut, part of the Rabbit Room Podcast Network. Audio production and theme music by Isaac Vining. Logo and identity work by Meg Cook. The Deepest Cut was created and hosted by me, Matt Connor. Thank you so much for listening.